various three-color strategies. This is just green and black. It's playing Smallpox, Life from Below, Mox Diamond, and then the kind of generic control stuff you would imagine. Some discard spells, Abrupt Decay, and Maelstrom Pulse to contain the board. A single Nether Spirit that he can find with Entomb alongside Life from Below. So
the problem here for Jeff is I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I think this matchup is pretty tough for him.
Well, Jeff is trying to mess around, and the robots do not mess around.
No, they do not. Here's a cranial plating off of an Ancient Tomb. You've got a Mox Opal out there. You're going to cycle a Baron Moore, Will Hoogland. Things get really ugly probably next turn. You see a couple copies of Tide Hollow Sculler there in Peterson's hand. Hoogland will take a draw here. Does have a Liliana the Veil in his hand. We'll see if he has something like a Mox Diamond maybe to get the party rolling.
Although it doesn't look like Tristan has many of his throwaway creatures, you know, the Ornithopters and Memnites of the world that allow him to really ignore Liliana the Veil, so his hand might be disruptible.
Here's a Thoughtseize. A lot of lands over there, just 2 Scullers. Wow. For you guys that are kind of a little bit newer to Magic, those are artifact lands. Those are lands that, I see the sign off, for example, taps for a blue just like an island would, but it's an artifact land. So, you know, if you're an affinity deck, you get to abuse that, and it can also be destroyed by Wasteland and a card like Oxidize or Shatter. So there are definitely some ups and there are some downs, but during its prime, it was all ups and no downs.
There's probably nothing that has caused more harm to the health of Magic than those cards and those lands.
Skull Clamp?
I lump that in with those cards.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I guess they were all together at the same time. Thank goodness they banned Skull Clamp and Block. That was really nice of them.
Well, then they just immediately put Cranial Plating in it. I mean, Cranial Plating is at least something resembling a normal Magic card. It's simply an awesome Magic card and not egregiously over the line, but it's still just another head scratcher.
Tide Hollow Sculler going to come in here, take a card from Hoogland. He's got an Abrupt Decay and Liliana, so if he takes one of those, the other one takes care of it along with a Thespian Stage, a Forest, and a copy of Sylvan Library.
And what's going on with Thespian Stage, you may ask? Combo with Dark Depths. Make it 2020.
Combo with Verdant Catacombs.
Yeah. You can copy it, and then, you know, you can go get whatever.
Shuffle for your Sylvan Library.
Right.
Broke it.
A lot of combos.
The big question is, what card do you actually take here in this situation? If you're Tristan, it may not end up mattering at all. We'll see, though.
I mean, at least if you take something like Abrupt Decay, it forces Jeff to play Liliana and remove some loyalty. So depending on your follow-up, you might be able to actually kill it.
But on the flip side, if you take Liliana, that means Abrupt Decay actually has to kill that as opposed to the Cranial Plating.
Sure.
So, definitely some decisions being made there, as Peterson does not play anything else that turn. Again, you see the Seat of the Synod and the Ancient Tomb. Hoogland knows those cards from that Thoughtseize earlier. We just don't know what the mystery card is just yet, as Jeff is going to play a Forest. And will he go Abrupt Decaying? That's the question. It looks like maybe the answer is no, but we'll find out as he's going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs, it looks like.
Another big issue here is
Maelstrom Pulse, okay.
As slow as and anemic as Tristan's art is, any creature is potentially very powerful in concert with Cranial Plating. And if he finds Tezzeret, it could just be lights out for a deck as slow and cumbersome as Jeff's.
Yeah, 3 copies of Tezzeret actually in Peterson's deck, and Tezzeret is absolutely fantastic here. And that is just a Memnite, and that's going to get equipped. I actually thought he was going to slam down Tezzeret that turn.
It looked like something was being slammed into play. I was expecting something a little more forceful than Memnite, but here we are.
Teach their own. That's what I say. See Hoogland going to play Thespian Stage right now. Looks like he may deploy the library, and he does. He's just going to pass the turn on back over to Peterson, who's going to take a draw. Again, he's got an Ancient Tomb in the grip. Not too much else. Abrupt Decay, going to take care of the Cranial Plating. Memnite, you get to attack for 1, putting Hoogland down to 16. See if Peterson has anything else sweet to do this turn. Looks like a Baleful Strix has shown up to the party. He's going to play an Ancient Tomb.
Baleful Strix isn't shabby here. It's pretty good against a deck as attrition-oriented as Jeff's.
Take a draw. 3 mana. That's an Etched Champion.
Etched Champion is fairly troublesome for Jeff, of course. Can't really kill that.
Well, I mean, if you think about just Modern for a moment, you think about how good Etched Champion is against the Jund-esque decks of that format. It's basically playing the same role here. That's exactly what Hoogland's deck is up to. He's got some black and green target removal, even Liliana. Sure, sacrifice my Memnite. What do I care? Finish off your Liliana, keep moving along.
Very robust against Edicts, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hoogland going to resolve his Sylvan Library. He's going to cast a Life from the Loam. Not the first time we've seen Jeff do that on camera or actually in this building. As the last time we were here, he made top 4 in the Legacy portion with his Loam, Knight of the Reliquary, Punishing Fire deck.
And now he can try to shift into more of a card advantage game where he's using Baron more to find more removal spells. But Tristan has a lot of really threatening draws from this spot.
Oh, yeah. Hoogland going to sacrifice his Verdant Catacombs. I mean, you can take a look here at Tristan Peterson's deck list. He's got 4 cranial platings, even though one has been taken care of. 3 Tezzeret's, another big draw. Another copy of that champion would be pretty darn good, too. Arcbound Ravager, you could say the exact same thing about. So definitely some good cards here.
Even has Chalice for 2 to potentially shut out Loam.
Yeah.
Although that, of course, shuts out a lot of his own action as well. But just a lot of big draws.
3 mana, Liliana showing up to the party. Time to make you sacrifice something. Mem Knight, I think it's been a good ride. Wasn't a long one, but it was a good one.
We've had some laughs, but it's time.
Oh, now we're doing lands in front of spells, switching it up. Maybe to try to put Jeff on tilt, not too sure. I promise those lands are untapped. That is a thing. Those lands should almost certainly be untapped. There we go. Thanks, Jeff.
I don't know if he's trying to match Jeff.
Oh, mimicking.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that.
As the two of them go further and further to encroaching onto the center of the board.
Yeah, that's where the creatures do the attacking, but that's where the lands will be providing mana this go around.
We might have spoken too soon about Jeff not having a really good answer to the Edge Champion. He has Cabal Pit in his deck, and I believe he's found it. So if he gets the threshold, I mean, that's just, we're good to go.
Yep, he just did. You are right. Wow. God, I love Legacy. He dredges over a Cabal Pit. I got to pick up the Cabal Pit is what I'm going to do. Thank you much. Oh, you're going to want to read that,
Oh,
Mr.
protection
Peterson.
from all colors. What am I supposed to do about that? No big deal.
You thought you had me with the old Edge Champion, but I have an answer, and it's the land from Odyssey. I don't know if it's all played in that limited format or even in the constructed format.
The threshold lands were pretty bad and limited.
Okay.
The damage was just not worth it.
Sure. Cabal Pit. Is it time? Gonna sacrifice Baron more first. And now get that out of here. Thank you much. And deal you 1.
And living Cabal Pit is a really good angle for Jeff from this stage of the game.
Follow up here. That is a Vault Scourge. You know what dies at the Cabal Pit?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Vault Scourge. And now Jeff looks like he may have found a copy of Dark Depths too. He is doing his thing.
Yeah, and it's not super clear that Tristan's list looks like the type of thing that would have an out to Merit Lage.
Yeah. It seems like that would be very problematic for him. It would take a card like a Dispatch to get the job done, but you don't find that a lot in Affinity. As here is Jeff going to go Loman again. A couple Baron Moors and that Cabal Pit. There's the Dark Depths in combination with Thespian Stage. That makes it 2020. Of course, what you do is you copy the Dark Depths with Thespian Stage. It checks, it has no counters on it. And then you have to sacrifice one of them, and you just keep the Thespian Stage, and that dies. And then you get 2020. Pretty sweet.
Easy.
Yeah. You see, Tristan Peterson's going to take a look at those 2 cards and say, how does this work?
It works.
And Jeff will say, it's favorable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is your worst nightmare. And he's going to do that right now. Peterson cannot attack. There's Jerry T, 2020 style. And actually what Jeff can do this turn now is he can actually play the Cabal Pit, kill the Flyer, and end this bad boy. But he's going to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, so he's going to cycle a Baron Moore, dredge his Loam. 1, 2, and 3 Orborg among the cards. You also see a couple copies of Smallpox. And so now he's going to dredge Loam, I think, for his turn. Actually, he's going to go Sylvan Library here first.
Yeah. I mean, Tristan does have 2 Flyers back on defense.
Oh, yeah, the
Strix
Strix. Yeah,
and
my
the Vault
apologies.
Scourge.
Yeah.
So he can't kill him this turn necessarily. If he picks up another removal spell, he can. But still a commanding position.
There's the pit. Yeah, it's safe. It's indestructible. You're allowed to attack with it. Death Touch is sweet. Not that sweet, though.
That's a safe attack.
Yep. Arcbound Ravager, the draw here for Peterson.
Now the question is, does Tristan even want to show him that Arcbound Ravager is in the deck?
It looks like the answer is yes, so there is your modular beast.
Feels like it's worth responding to this by using Cabal Pit on the Flyer.
I would agree, and he does. So that's gone. Ravager's in. Peterson drew a lot of lands this game. Gonna sacrifice Mox Opal. Put a counter on that. Probably play another Mox Opal. Show you his bag of tricks. Yep, there's those. Gotta eat everything here. Jeff is probably wondering, is this a fling, or am I about to die, or what's happening? And Tristan's just saying, just look at the things I can do. Think about next game when I can do that again. Nether Spirit's going to come.
Nice.
Yep. While Peterson was
Even
showboating.
gets the Nether Spirit.
Yeah. While Peterson was showboating, Jeff said, "Oh yeah, I have one creature in my
Free.
deck.
This costs me nothing.
Yeah. You think your deck's sweet? My deck's sweet. How about Liliana? Kill your sweet thing." I think he's trying to go flawless. Wow, look at these two. Look at these two just go back and forth. Jeff Hoogland going to win game number 1 here over Tristan Peterson. Lone Pox up a game over Affinity.
You want to shove on your Ravager to show off? I'll show you showing off. I'll leave you with nothing.
You have a land.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to kill you then. I could have wastelanded that too. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. Tristan Peterson is staring at 2 copies of Zealous Persecution, 3 Surgical Extractions, 3 Whip Flares, along with 3 Ethersworn Cantus, 2 Rest in Peace, a Chalice of the Void, and Tormod's Crypt. Gotta like the Crypt against the old Graveyard deck, along with the 2 copies of Rest in Peace, so that's an easy 3. And Whip Flare is probably not very good in this matchup. The thing is, he doesn't know that.
Well, I think the problem is that I think the Nether Spirit gives it away.
Okay.
Probably not. We're probably not looking at a Deathrite Shaman deck once you see Nether Spirit.
I also like the 3 copies of Surgical Extraction. I think just going after the Graveyard is appropriate here.
He has a lot of graveyard hate. This is a really diverse set of graveyard disruption spells that he has access to. Jeff's side, he has a Duress, a Dark Blast, 2 Diabolic Edicts, 2 Golgari Charms, now a Spellbomb, 2 Surgical Extractions, 3 Pithing Needles, and 3 Sphere of Resistance. I think Pithing Needle is reasonable. He's seen Cranial Plating. He's seen Arcbound Ravager. Tesserant's reasonable to assume. I think the Golgari Charms and the Dark Blast are reasonable. A lot of 1/1s in Tristan's list, and the 2 Diabolic Edicts as well. So the 1 Toughness Hate is good in the matchup, the additional creature removal, then I think the Needles have a lot of targets.
So both players are going to sideboard up here.
Tristan just had a really poor hand that game.
Yeah, he kept a very land-heavy hand with a couple of Scullers, but he couldn't even play the Scullers very early. Now, Sculler is obviously a very good card in the early turns of the game to provide a little bit of disruption. He also had a Cranial Plating, so I do take that back, but got to get the creatures into play first before the plating is actually very effective. He was unable to do that. So we'll see what he's able to put together this game, because I do actually think that this is a really tough matchup here for Hoogland.
Yeah, Tristan has one of his explosive starts, especially backed by a Planeswalker, which is not easy for Jeff to get off the table. We're basically looking at 1 copy of Maelstrom Pulse and 1 copy of Ratchet Bomb. Not really good answers to Tezzeret. I think that Tristan might just be able to run away with the game.
See Jeff smiling, shuffling up here. He's 5-1 with his brew. Yesterday didn't work out great for him with the Jun Bestow deck, but things are obviously going much better this go around.
He's had a lot of success with loam strategies in the Legacy Opens the last couple of years.
Yeah, he likes them quite a bit. And we'll see if he's able to put some more wins together with this deck. Again, top 4 last time we were actually in this building.
It's not too surprising. Jeff does like to brew, and loam gives you a lot of different avenues you can take the deck. Of course, you want your wastelands. That's the obvious thing. But, you know, for example, 1 Cabal Pit, 1 Buried Ruin in his list. He's kind of working with some weirder stuff.
Buried Ruin, huh? I can dig it.
Got to get back your pit, for example.
Sure. Why not? It's no Ken and Haas, because he went really deep.
Oh yeah, that was a totally different animal.
But it's a pretty deep hole we're going through. Ken and Haas, of course, our Legacy Open champion the first week of the year in Indianapolis. Really got the year kick-started fantastic on the Open Series. I know a lot of people love that Jun Depths deck.
Well, people love new territory.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And he was doing a lot of crazy things. It was an absolute blast to watch. And he ended up taking the trophy. We'll see if Jeff can do the same here with the Loam strategy. It's been a little while since we've seen Loam put up a nice finish. Been a lot of talk about Delver decks and True Name Nemesis and the blue decks of the format, but we've actually seen non-blue decks do rather well this particular weekend. Heck, we just watched an Imperial Painter deck go on Plan W to get the job done.
Imperial Recruiter into Imperial Recruiter. A chain of events you only see when a Lauren is involved generally and everything's free.
Yep.
No, he was just make a 1/1, make another 1/1, make another 1/1.
Yeah, that was hard mode.
No, yeah.
That's what that was. But still in the tournament, actually giving Joe Bernal a second loss. So, pretty fun to watch.
It was a bizarre game. That was a bizarre game.
Yeah, we've seen some really wide range of games this week. And we've seen some very, very, intense, good Magic played by Adrian Sullivan, playing Blue-White Control, putting on a clinic on how to play that kind of strategy and balance your resources. We've seen some concessions on turn 2. Sam Black being conceded to after playing a Nightfield Spectre.
Yep.
I won't forget that one. And then, of course, we saw Imperial Recruiter search for Imperial Recruiter, search for Imperial Recruiter, along with a couple Ragtag Firebolts get the job done. So anything can happen There's an Ancient Den. There's a Mem Knight. There's a Mox. And
All right, now this is a draw.
Scholar. Yeah, now this is a draw.
At 6 o'clock.
This is a turn 1. Let me see your hand. Abrupt Decay, Golgari Charm, Ratchet Bomb lands. And then Jeff's cards are actually pretty good. The question is, are they fast enough?
Yeah, he's going to be under the gun here. He also doesn't have green mana. He has a Swamp, a Barrymore, and a Wasteland.
Yeah, Wasteland actually making an appearance here, but not look. I mean, you would think that Wasteland's great against Affinity. In most cases, it is, but it's not anything crazy in this situation. You see, Sculler's going to take one of these cards.
Well, Tristan needs so little mana to operate in many cases. And at this point, I mean, he has 3 mana in play, or 2 mana in play on turn 1. So Stone Raining him seems like it's not likely to be very effective.
Feel free, I think is what he's saying. If you want to fire off a Wasteland, be my guest. Hoogland going to take a draw here. Now, if Hoogland was to run no copy of, Mox Diamond, for example, as he will Wasteland and pass the turn back, things get pretty hairy. And you see another Mem Knight rolled off the top here for Tristan. He is going to cast a Cranial Plating. There is another Mem Knight. Here's an attack for 3.
Now, this is a draw.
Yeah. This is why Affinity is very appealing in Legacy.
Jeff, you want to Wasteland me again? You want that to be your turn?
You can do that if you want.
Yeah, let me know.
You know you have no permanents, right?
Yeah. He has drawn a Verdant Catacomb, so he does have access to green mana now, but I don't know if he can afford to take a turn off.
He's going to have to. Peterson going to draw a card. See Ancient Tomb along with Vault Scourge. Will he extend even further? He's actually, you want to extend further because of Cranial Plating on the creature in play, but he knows there's a Golgari Charm, and he knows the -1/-1 mode from that, so he's going to equip Sculler appropriately. This is an attack for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage, I believe.
And I like not adding the additional creature to the board because with Cranial Plating in play, every one of Tristan's threats is potentially lethal. So it's not getting an extra creature into play doesn't add that much to your clock. It's 1 point of damage, but as a leftover in concert with Cranial Plating, it'd be quite a bit.
Yeah. We're going to try to figure out if he can get himself out of the situation. How much damage do I take if I Golgari Charm? Because I get to kill your 2 Mem Knights, and then your Sculler is 1 less. So that makes it so it's 1, 2, 3. You got an Artifact Land, it's 4, Mox is 5. So maybe he makes it another turn here. He's going to try to figure it out. I know what he can't do is play Wasteland.
No.
I can promise you that.
I appreciate his spunk doing it on the first turn, but
He just played Wasteland. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
oh, it was Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah, I guess, Ratchet Bomb. Yeah, he's just going to blow it up now. So there goes the Mox. Okay, yeah, that's actually much better.
Yeah,
because it's going to kill the Mox, yeah. I thought he was just going to play the Bayou in his hand and maybe represent Golgari Charm, so this is a better play overall. There's a now, the issue here is that he can just play a bunch of artifacts and kill them, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is exactly
7, yeah.
Yeah, 7, yeah. So if he doesn't, if he plays the Bayou and leaves the Golgari Charm, I don't think he dies that turn.
Yeah, but there's a lot of upside in him being able to keep the Golgari Charm.
Yeah, okay.
I understand what you're saying, the way that it worked out there, but I can definitely understand Ratchet Bomb's so slow in this game, it can do nothing but contain 0 mana cost cards. There's no other thing you can do with the card in that game. Golgari Charm fulfills the same role that turn. You save 1 point of damage with the Sculler attacking, but you also get to keep a card that's much more flexible against permanents with mana costs.
Yeah, I guess that's true. There are like 2 sides to it, right? Where if he plays Ratchet Bomb and blows up like he does, he takes care of 3 permanents, the Mox and 2 Mem Knights. If he plays Golgari Charm, he's effectively taking care of 3 permanents, which is the Mox, which is running +1 off of the plating, and then the two Mem Knights that are in play. But also, Jeff can't play stuff pre-combat to add damage to that. Now, the problem here is that the Ratchet Bomb is worse the longer the game goes.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that if Jeff Golgari Charms, next turn he has Ratchet Bomb in his hand against permanents with mana costs, and he's facing lethal. So the Ratchet Bomb provides no utility.
Okay, sure.
He's in a rock and a hard place, and he's likely to die no matter which route he takes over the course of the 2 turns. But I think he's better served using the Ratchet Bomb the turn it's productive and leaving the slightly more flexible Golgari Charm in his hand for turns down the line.
Okay.
The larger point is that it's a mess. But imagine that he only has one toughness creature. Maybe the Golgari Charm in concert with something else the next turn actually makes a difference.
Sure.
He could find Golgari Charm and Dark Blast and actually clear out everything.
Yeah, sure.
So, again, He's up against it in a pretty bad way. He's unlikely to win the game regardless, but I do think that Jeff took the better line there.
Is it better to play Wasteland or something that provides black mana?
I think that he needs to play something that provides black mana.
Because if he plays Bayou in that situation, he does draw a card like Dark Blast. Then he can actually go Golgari Charm, kill your stuff, Dark Blast, kill your other thing. Where by playing the Wasteland, he actually can't do that.
Yeah, I don't like playing the Wasteland because you can always play the Wasteland to kill something if the game gets to that point, but the priority has to get in multiple colored sources of mana because the sequence he needs to win the game is almost certainly something like Golgari Charm, Dark Blast, or Abrupt Decay, Dark Blast, or something along those lines. And if that's the out, then you can't afford to have colorless lands in play.
Now, of course, the issue does arise where, well, I guess the Ratchet Bomb's already gone. So, yeah, Jeff has to top deck no matter what in that situation.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got to figure it out.
Yep. Now, that was an Affinity opening.
Yeah, I want to see something like that again.
Well, I would like to see Ravager rear its head. We rarely get to see it in Legacy.
Yeah, that's true. That card is a pain in the neck. In all formats, honestly.
It's very powerful. It's very powerful.
Yeah, medium power. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I wish I would have played more Affinity when that was a deck back then.
Oh, I was the stubborn one that was, I played in the Pro Tour with, the Black Pro Tour. I played some 16 Shatter, Boulder Slug.
You'll show them.
Yeah, this was the curve that I got against Affinity. Turn 1, Forest, Oxidize your play.
Yep.
Turn 2, Land, Red-Green, Talisman, Electrostatic Bolt, a play.
Good turn.
Turn 3, Land, Isochron Scepter on Shatter, activate Isochron Scepter, was easily crushed.
Yeah, that's another good turn by you.
Yeah, Stone Rain, Terminated, and then Terminate with Buyback on my first 3 turns, and I did not come close to winning the game.
There are a lot of horror stories like that back then, honestly.
He just got some somber hover guards into play and beat me to death.
The team that I was working with back then, this is when I was 18, still living in Ohio, we worked on red-green. That's it.
Yeah.
And we just worked on trying to beat
the Fresh Maker.
Yeah, the Fresh Maker was the deck.
I remember this.
Yeah,
one.
all we cared about was beating Affinity, and if we would have put nearly as much time as we put into the Fresh Maker as we did into Affinity, we probably would have qualified for the Pro Tour a bunch.
Yeah, nearly all of my friends correctly drew the same conclusion.
Yeah. just work on Affinity and learn how to play it perfectly instead of this Arc Slogger, Molder Slug, Wayfarer's Bobble nonsense.
I had Glissa in my deck. I had 4 Trollus Edicts, and those are really good against Frogmite.
Yeah, we cut those for Oof Vandal. Thank you much. Counter your Mindslaver, bro.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah. A lot of stories from back then. I even remember the finals of a PTQ my friend was playing in with the red-green deck. He kept the hand with a bunch of Oxidizes, and then his opponent played a Darksteel Citadel on turn 1, and I lose. That's it. That is it. We see a pretty quick start here. A couple Ornithopters. You got a Mox Opal. You got a Baleful Strix to Cantrip. Another couple copies of Mox Opal.
If Tristan had one of his payoff cards, this would be an Affinity draw. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Instead, a lowly Dark Blast is here to break everything up.
This is really good against Tristan's deck. It goes without saying.
Yeah.
Vault Scourge, Memnite, Baleful Strix.
Tristan's going to cast Surgical Extraction on this right now.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, that card's a nightmare for him to play against. So,
although part of me thinks, maybe you're better served waiting for Loam because the rest of his hand is just mana, and he has 2 Ornithopters in play.
Yeah.
So maybe you can slog through one more Dark Blast if it comes up, and then extract it. But for the time being, leave it in your hand as insurance against Life from the Loam, which is the real problem card in the matchup long term.
Jeff with a Needle, a Thespian Stage, a Sylvan Library, a Barren Moor, and a Wasteland in the grip. Dark Blast planning on working overtime. It's already done a little bit of work. For Peterson, his hand has a bunch of Mox Opals in it, so he needs a payoff card, as you did mention. Just got to find one.
And he has Tezzeret. He has Arcbound Ravager. But most of his payoff cards at this point are shut off by that Needle. So even if Tristan does draw one of his big cards, he needs to do something productive that turn.
Then you do see Surgical Extraction. A lot more of that showing up nowadays. Really, a Legacy standby. Great with Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, normally you see it with Snapcaster Mage.
2 Dark Blasts from Jeff going to go by Surgical Extraction. Resolves, and then the Baleful Strix dies. And you see Peterson's hand 2 Moxes and an Ancient Tomb.
And the Needle is going to be really rough.
An Ancient Den.
The Needle is going to be really rough for him this game.
Yeah, it's probably going to name Plating, right?
Well, it just names whatever Tristan's eventual payout is, whether it's Ravager, whether it's Tezzeret, what have you.
Yeah. I guess Jeff doesn't even have to deploy right away.
No, he can wait.
Now, you could preemptively deploy on a card like Plating so he doesn't take a huge punch in the face, but there's either way, the Needle's going to have a huge impact on the game.
Yeah, the problem is that both Artbound Ravager and Cranial Plating are threatening cards, and they're both threatening essentially the same way. So it's really hard to preemptively name one when it could just be the other.
Speak of threatening cards, rest in peace. Going to take care of all the bins. This is a card that's definitely good against Jeff. Now, he does have ways to get that off the table. Maelstrom, Pulse, Abrupt Decay. Among them, I'm going to go Sylvan Librarying here. Quite sure what he's looking at. Maybe even Thoughtseize over there.
Rest in Peace should certainly slow the pace of this game down.
Yeah. But I don't know who that benefits. Because Jeff actually gets to, the pace slowing is probably a good thing for Jeff because he just gets the library up.
Well, if Tristan finds very productive draws back-to-back, Jeff might not be able to catch up because he uses his graveyard as a resource.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I'm sure Jeff is happy right now facing no pressure.
How dare you talk about Ornithopter like that? Couple of Moxen and an Ancient then. So, a very poor Thoughtseize.
But at least Jeff knows that he is not facing anything threatening in the short term.
Yeah, can't stop the top of the deck, but he knows what's in the grip, and it's nothing. Wasteland going to fire away on the seat. There's a stage, and Hoogland will pass the turn back. Let's see if Peterson can find an action card.
What's important here about Jeff using the Wasteland is it prevents Tristan from drawing and casting a copy of Tezzeret.
Yeah, and that's the big payoff for him, I think, in this situation. Tristan just going to pass the turn, not going to play a land, which is a little bit interesting, I think. He's saying, I don't want to open this up to a Wasteland, and maybe I need this mana.
Yeah. Makes sense. Nothing to cast right now, so.
Hoogland going to play a Forest. Going to play a Needle. Now, this is going to be interesting. Let's see what he names here. And we'll get confirmation for you guys in just a moment. He's going to go Cranial Plating, so preemptively naming that now. This is where things get troublesome because, yep. I was going to say, if he draws Darkbound Ravager, this gets really ugly. And as you mentioned, there are a couple different things he'd want to name. There's a lot of payoffs here, and Ravager is a nightmare in this situation, as there's a Cyclone Baronmoor going to get removed from the game because of Rest in Peace.
Yeah, this is really rough. And this is the risk, of course, of the preemptive Needle.
To be fair, Ravager is the perfect card around Needle, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, it at least forces Tristan's hand.
Yeah. It's like if Jeff holds the Needle and doesn't name Ravager, it's like, okay, like there's no Needle in play. I play Ravager, I pass. You play Needle. It's like, okay, I'll respond by making something gigantic or making the Ravager gigantic, and then you have to kill that, and then I get to modular over. So, either way, Ravager was going to be a huge problem here unless Jeff just played Needle naming Ravager, and then he opens himself to getting bashed by plating.
Sure.
It was going to be pretty ugly either way. It's just unfortunate for Jeff that that Peterson actually drew exactly Needle. He's going to fire that off, I think. Let's see if he does not eat the artifact land. Looks like maybe he knows he missed it now.
Yeah.
Peterson going to take a draw. There's an Ancient Tomb. And that Mox is just in his hand. It's not in play. I think it might be coming in play in a minute. He's going to eat that with Ravager. This might be a Tez. Yep.
Oh, boy. Some really insane draws back-to-back here for Tristan.
And this card closes games out really, really fast. And it's kind of ironic here, if you're Jeff, the two cards that I would have probably also liked to name with Needle, and I took a stab in the dark and I missed.
Yeah. Like you said, I think that if you were going to play Needle preemptively, he named the best card. But them's the breaks, as they say.
Yeah. That's a 4 out of 5-er.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 cards to actually look at, but you only get to pick one. It is no Garrett Caller of the Beast. In comes the Ravager, just for 2. There's a Baronmoor's getting in cycles. You Jeff kind of half-heartedly throw that down.
Yeah.
Sylvan Library. Going to look at a couple of garbage cards. He's going to extend the hand. So Tristan Peterson, with Affinity, is going to win this match over Jeff Hoogland. And Affinity moves on to 6-1. So Alex Machelton, eat your heart out, baby.
The bots.
Robots. Robots.
In fairness, I think this match is probably pretty rough for Jeff. I think that if they played 10 times, Tristan would win more than 5 of them.
I think this match is terrible for Jeff.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely terrible. If Tristan has any reasonable draw, he's much too fast. Jeff's ability to actually just grind out his resources with Life from the Loam is not something that Tristan even cares about, really. And, you know, we saw Cabal Pit actually take a game away from Edge Champion, but a high percentage of the time, Edge Champion is going to actually